Have you ever looked at your life and thought, I cannot keep doing this? I cannot keep living tired, stuck, and waiting for someday. This episode is a gut check and a reset because Drewbie Wilson is here to help you crush the day before it crushes you. This is the Your Next Success podcast, and I'm your host, Dr. Carolyn Sagal. I am a life-first career coach and strategist on a mission to normalize questioning your career, because I believe each of us is made on purpose for a purpose only we can fulfill. The longer we live out of alignment with who we are, what we do best, and why we are here, the more we miss out, and the more the world misses out on what only we can give. The Your Next Success podcast is where we explore how to build a career that truly fuels your life. We talk about self-discovery, smart job search strategies, professional growth, and you will hear stories from people who have navigated big career transitions themselves so you can create a life-first career and become your own version of authentic success. Today's guest is Drewbie Wilson. Drewbie is a loving husband and father, a straight shooter, and the founder of Call the Damn Leads. He's gone from tech support in a software startup to vice president of a multi-million-dollar consulting company, and he's built 7 figures in revenue across industries by staying focused on service, action, and integrity. He's also walked a real health journey, losing more than 100 pounds, gaining it, losing it again, and getting honest about what consistency and identity change actually look like. This conversation is for the person who knows something has to change. Because Drewbie's story starts with where a lot of people begin: survival. A rough childhood, a lot of moving, a lot of learning early that hard work matters. And then he takes us through what happens when school feels too slow, when you're bored, when you want control, and when you start chasing freedom in ways that come with consequences. In this episode, you'll hear what changes when you stop waiting for the standard path to work, why inputs change outputs is more than a quote, the giver's gain moment that changed his career. Let's get into it. Drewbie Wilson, welcome to Your Next Success. I am so excited for the conversation that we're about to have.
Appreciate you having me. I'm excited to be here. I hope the listener is ready, because I'm going to drop some stuff on them that's gonna get them in the stomach and in the feels, but I know it'll help them. So I'm excited for them to hear it.
I'm loving it. I'm loving it. Okay, as you know, I love talking about careers, career transitions, all of those things. We're going to get into that. We're going to get into all the awesome, amazing work that you do now to really help move people out of their comfort zone, call the damn leads, or whatever it is that they need to do to move forward and reach for their next success. But let's take it back, because everybody's story is interesting and unique. And yours is also interesting, unique, and in many different ways than some other guests that I've had on the show. Can you walk us back to your childhood, like early childhood? Tell me about it. Where were you? Where'd you grow up? How was all that?
Yeah, absolutely. So if we go way, way back, I was originally born in Florida in Daytona Beach. Mom and dad had grown up in the area. They got together. I was born. Then my younger brother was born. Then some things went on. They separated. They went to Arkansas. So I grew up on a farm in Arkansas for like a year. And then from there we moved. My mom and dad had kind of a rough relationship growing up. So we ended up leaving Arkansas, coming to Ohio when I was about 6. And so that was when we moved in with my mom's mom, and we kind of lived with her for a number of years. And that kind of was a lot of travel and back and forth. I went to a number of different schools, had a number of different like crazy things going on. And then ultimately, as I was growing up, I wouldn't say I grew up like impoverished. My mom and grandma always worked really hard to take care of us, but we definitely had that, single mom, grandmother kind of vibe, and basically just had to figure it out as we grew, which was kind of an interesting journey for a young kid. We always got to find our way in life. And that to me was one of those things where I watched my mom really work hard. I watched my grandma really work hard. So that was instilled in me early on, was like, hey, whatever you do, you can figure it out as long as you work hard.
Mm, mm, okay. And so what did your dad was in the picture for a while, and then that was no longer a good relationship, for your mom. What was his career choice per se?
Um, so when I was younger, he always was into like motorcycles. So he was into motorcycle repair, engine repair, stuff like that, which was pretty much what he did the majority of my life. And I'm pretty sure he still does to this day. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but and he was in and out of our lives until he was there until I was probably 4 or 5, then he was out until, I don't know, maybe 10, 11, and he was back in and out off and on for a couple of years, and then I think he and my mom finally, like, made the ultimate split. I wanna say I was maybe 16 or s maybe 15 or 16, somewhere around there, where they finally kinda, like they were done trying at that point and went their separate ways. My dad got remarried. I have 3 sisters that I've actually never met in person. One of them reached out to me on social media not too long ago, which was kind of an interesting conversation, but, he was always like a repair guy, and my dad, he's really good at fixing things, and he could get himself ahead, but he always had this terrible habit of anytime he got ahead, he would then, like, go and spend all of the money or do something crazy with it and make, like, a very rash, terrible decision and then leave himself always behind the 8 ball for whatever reason. So it was like, my mom and grandma worked hard and my dad worked hard, but ultimately they all kind of made a bunch of really strange choices about how they lived. And looking back at it now, we're young, we're dumb, we don't know what the hell we're doing. There's no book that teaches you how to be successful on raising kids or in life in general. And so there are several that exist that will help, but there is no one answer. And I think that to me is what I've kind of learned from looking back on the experience. While it all wasn't sunshine and rainbows, I got to learn a lot of lessons from it, which has helped me create the life that I get to live
Yes.
now.
Absolutely, yeah, our parents, our early influences, they shape a lot of our some of our mindsets, some of the things that are like, "Yeah, this is who we are, this is what we do, we work hard." And sometimes it's a, "Yeah, I'm gonna do it a little bit differently because I see how they worked really hard. They were able to have some, resources because of that hard work. And I think I'm gonna keep it a little bit different than they did. So, yeah, for good or bad, all of our experiences ultimately now I can say do work for us. But at the time, it sure as heck doesn't feel like it. Doesn't seem like
Ugh.
it.
And if you guys read my books, I have 4 on Amazon. I actually have another one coming
Yes.
out soon. You'll get to read some of the wild stuff that I had to go through as far as, just and this is the thing that I've always found interesting, Carolyn, is as you said, everyone has stories and everyone's is very personal and I think touches on some really core traumas that all of us go through. And I think that's the interesting thing about shows like this and why I love to be a part of them because we all have our own unique trauma. And yet when you start looking at the big picture, all of us have gone through some shit and a lot of times it's kind of similar so we can share on that and help others see the perspective of as you said it happened for us and so now we get to learn from it and grow, which is the goal in all of this.
Yeah, and that's also, part of why I call this my company is Next Success, right? Because I believe somebody is already successful because they got to that day. Period. And what do you wanna do next, right? And things kinda shape us and kinda different, but I wanna get a little bit deeper into that, and I know that the books do a phenomenal job. I mean, I was, like, highlighting like crazy. I was that nerd. I was that nerd. I'm highlighting. I got some quotes, I got some stuff, so, like, later we might kinda pull some out. Um, but 2 things. So, when you were really little, did you even think about success, or what did you think it meant to be successful, or were you just caught up in other things?
If I had to put an answer on it right from the gut, I would say success to me when I was little was survival. It was like just
Mhm.
get to another day, get to the next meal, get to the next thing. It was just surviving was being successful. So I
Yeah,
think that to
yeah.
me was really the definition of it. Now it's a little bit different, but back then that was it.
Yeah. So teenage years were pretty interesting for you as well. Tell me a little bit about that. Well, I guess also, but before we get to that, when you were in school, were there any particular things that you enjoyed more than others? Like, were there any subjects or any activities or any things that
That's a great question. Let's talk like, elementary school, young. I was really I'm a smart person. Like I was a smart kid. I always excelled. I was in, the more advanced classes. And I was a big fan of history and science because I love to understand how things work. And also, when you start digging into it, it's like, why do certain things happen the way that they happen? And history is a great place to look for that because it is very cyclical and you can kind of look at, well, this happened and then this happened and then this happened and then this happened. So there's a lot of the if then breakdown of the why behind things. So that to me has always been an interest of mine. And then as I got into, middle school and high school, I think what happened is that it didn't advance fast enough for me. So I got bored, and that boredom led me into art and more creative aspects because in that time of boredom I was just like creating things and coming up with new ideas and strategies. And so it was always difficult for me as I got older in school because I hate, and still to this day is a pet peeve of mine, just being very frank, I don't like waiting on others. If I'm here to learn and I want to grow, I don't want to wait for someone else to catch up so that I can keep progressing. Now, there's some fault to
I
that
got
as a
you?
business owner. We could go down that path, but it's interesting how that happened to me in school. And now when I look back and I recognize like the reason I started doing drugs and goofing off and going down that path was because I was regressing while I waited for everyone else to catch up to the stuff that I already knew. And because I wanted that knowledge, I was seeking it and I wasn't getting it. I looked for other avenues to explore that desire and creativity. Hopefully that answered the question. It's kind
Interesting.
of long winded,
It
but
does. It does. It does. It does. I love long-winded. But so you're also kind of like trying to exert some control over like you're the
yes,
one gonna be in charge of what you're doing with your time, with your life. You want interesting things, you want fascinating things. The regular supposed structures that are in place weren't actually supporting your own personal development. And so you took things into your own hands and just was like, all right, I guess I'm gonna, guess I'm gonna try these things. And so school then wasn't fast enough for you. You did explore drugs, other things, and started making some
extracurriculars, if
money
you
to
will.
extracurriculars, if you will. And somewhere along the way, you started making money. Tell a little bit about that
Yeah,
path.
so well, being a degenerate high schooler, as some of us were, and interesting when you study entrepreneurs and you ask who comes from that background, the number of hands that will go up. Even the shy ones will kind of be like, yeah, I don't talk about it publicly. But yeah, so in high school, junior high, high school, I had this ability to get a hold of the things that we weren't supposed to have as kids, whether it was, cigarettes or weed or whatever. And so I would do those, and I, being kind of an entrepreneurial young man, realized that, we lived in Michigan at the time, and I had some friends that were over 18 that could get to Ohio where cigarettes were significantly cheaper, and so they'd go down there and buy a carton of 20, and I would give them whatever it was, 20, 30 bucks at the time, and they'd bring them to me, and I'd go to school and I'd sell them at $5 a pack. So I'm making a 40%, 50% markup on them, and I'd just go to school and I'd have a couple of packs of smokes in there and I'd have a couple of dime bags. And that was like every day. I just rolled in and had whatever the kids needed. And by lunchtime, I would be sold out most of the time. And I would do that a couple days a week. And that's how I paid for all the other fun stuff that I like to do in my free time, going to the skate park and buying McDonald's breakfast every day because that's what I love to eat. And so that was kind of how I provided for myself in the way of, my family didn't have a ton of extra money. So did what we had to do to survive. And while we were playing video games and getting stoned, we were finding different stuff in the video games that we could sell on eBay. And so we started selling video game coins and items and stuff. I always make the joke on stage that we were in the crypto and NFT business before we knew what it really was. That was how we had fun.
Yeah. And so again, you're taking charge. You're in control of your own life. You're building your own things to fall back on. And then how did that kind of shift, change, or evolve through high school, let's say?
I mean, junior high and high school, that was kind of my life, was exploring how to create freedom for myself in a way that still let me have fun, paid for the things that I wanted to have in my life, and then created the opportunity to feel like I was in control in a way that gave me the ability to do the things that I wanted to do. In terms of, a lot of times we're told what to do as a perspective of what our elders see as a version of success. And to me, what I was realizing in those years, those really formative years, is that the people who were following the structure, do this, go to college, graduate, get the job, yada yada yada. I'm looking at those people and I'm talking to them and I'm going, well, I mean, they followed the path and they're being told, hey, you're not going to be able to get this job. Or now you're saddled with all of this college debt and the career that you thought was going to be there doesn't actually exist anymore. Or they need you to have 5 years of on the job experience before you are qualified. And the fact is, like, you can't get job experience with the degree that you just deserve, like you earned. So it just, none of it made sense to me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't want to follow this path and end up where these people are, even though they're saying this is the path to follow. So, like, what am I going to do to create my own path? And how am I going to be confident that it's going to provide for me the things that I need in my life? And that's, hey, we can go down the path of success and the perspective of it. But at that time, that was all that mattered to me was, can you provide for you to live the life that you want to live no matter what happens?
There was that one quote in your book, one of the books in the well, you'll tell me which book it was, but
Hopefully.
one quote was, as I watch the people below driving off toward a job they most likely don't care for, to make money for things they don't really want, but feel that they need to be what most people would consider successful, it makes me think about the many decisions that were necessary to change my thinking about what success in my own life would look like.
That's a good one.
Yeah,
And it, and
that
it
was a great one.
it's it comes back to the realization that at every level we are faced with the decision of, and I'll take this from a mentor of mine, when is enough enough? Because kind of younger us sees the people with the fancy cars and the jewelry and the lifestyle, and we go, hey, I want that. Like, clearly that's what success is, right? And for young men, it's seeing the guys with the beautiful women and all the things that make us think that's what success looks like. And for women, it might be the other, having a beautiful man or having access and freedom or what. Like, everyone sees it differently, but we're all fed this version on Instagram, on social media, in movies, in the media, of what successful means. And ultimately, what's crazy is, if you know those individuals, and as you grow up and meet some of the superstars and the famous people, you realize they're just people. And they're people with
Yep.
problems, and problems that sometimes get way, way worse with more money, or, depending upon how famous you are, you can and cannot do certain things anymore. And so you start to realize it's not all it's cracked up to be. And
Yep.
that is something for me that I've really taken to heart, in terms of when I'm working with others or talking to someone and they're looking at my life and going, man, you've lost all this weight, or you've done all of these things, you've hit all of these accolades. I'm like, yeah, but you've done things that I've never done. And I want to encourage you to remember that, because, like, what you're capable of is so awesome. Don't compare yourself. Don't downgrade or degrade what you're capable of just because of something I've done or what someone else has done. Like, you can go and do amazing things too, and have done amazing things. So let's embrace that and figure out how to get you to the next version that you're looking for in yourself.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I think it every single thing comes down to consistent effort towards a goal you're trying to meet. And by golly, if you do that effort and you work hard, you're sure enough gonna get to a different place. But you mentioned about the weight. So somewhere along the line, weight kind of creeped up. Tell a little bit about what that was like. What was happening? What were you doing? How were you? How? Like,
Oh, man,
yeah.
I was always fed as a young man that we're a bigger family because like, everyone in my family was a little bigger. I wouldn't say, like, obesely overweight, but just bigger people in general. And that was just the way it was, and we ate and we had fun, and exercise wasn't something that was a priority for our family, and so it wasn't something that my young mind was accustomed to. And then, going through junior high, having kind of freedom to just eat whatever I want, let me promise you that eating multiple McDonald's breakfast sandwiches every day, a bagel and a couple of hash browns and a sausage McGriddle, like, you don't need that many calories, even as a growing boy. And then to go and get pizza for lunch and whatever for dinner. I mean, I wasn't being monitored. I had no supervision. I did what I wanted. So, hey, freedom comes with consequences, everybody. And I got fat. I was overweight in high school. I remember always having to shop in the adult section for wide pants that I had to hem because my legs were short, but my waist was wide. And it was always an embarrassment internally that I had to fight through. And graduated high school overweight, got a third shift job, did that overweight, even worse because I was just chugging energy drinks and sugar and nonsense and sleeping terribly and not taking care of myself. And I remember getting on the scale at one point and being 315 pounds and just being like, the hell are you doing with your life, dude? I'm 6'1", so I'm a tall guy as in general, but 315 is a big boy. And I was a big boy. And I remember just kinda asking, "What do you want out of life?" Because I wasn't getting the attention from the people that I wanted the attention of as far as the ladies. I wasn't able to do all the athletic things that I wanted to do in terms of skateboarding, BMX riding, whatever. I wasn't financially where I wanted to be. I didn't have the motivation to do things that I wanted to do, and I'm just going, "What? I gotta make a change." And that was the start of a very long journey that continues to this day, 10, 12 years later, of understanding what does healthy mean to me, because we can go down the rabbit hole of the actual body weight for people. 90% of America is obese by the standards of the medical boards from the 1960s when they set whatever it is. And ultimately, the number on the scale doesn't determine how healthy you actually are, because you can have
Right.
muscle and be strong and be healthy and still be 40 pounds over what the board says you should weigh. And so that's something that I've learned. And what I went on that journey, I went from 315 to 215. Stopped drinking soda, started moving more, really made an effort to pay more attention to like what I was doing, calories in, calories out, very basic weight loss. Got to 215, met a pretty lady, started dating, got comfortable as we do when we start dating someone and stopped putting in as much effort and started eating extra sandwiches and late night Taco Bell runs after the bar and all the things that we do when we're having fun, and looked up and was 285 pounds again. And so I tell all of this because 315 to 215, I lost 100 pounds. Gained it all back to 285. Then when I started my health journey again after my son was born, I went from 285 to 185. Guess what? At 185, I looked at myself in the mirror and I hated it. I looked like a string bean. I'm like, this is gross. Like, what am I doing here? I look like Christian Bale in that movie where he loses all that weight and he's like, ugh. And so this whole long convoluted story of like losing 100 pounds, gaining it, losing it again. I tell you this because body dysmorphia is something I still deal with to this day.
Yeah.
And it's important to understand that wherever you are, the listener right now in your fitness journey, as long as you show up and you consistently do something every day to better yourself, whether it's a light movement or just focusing on making better choices in your nutrition, you're on the right track. but you have to
Mm,
stay consistent and you have to keep showing up day after day because no one else can do this for you but you. And so that's my
that's
soapbox
right.
rant about health. I'm not a nutritionist. I don't endure anybody to do the crazy shit that I do, but like, please get yourself healthy because there's someone out there that needs you to be here for a long time.
Yeah, you mentioned your son. I think your son has been, well, the pretty lady
My
and your
beautiful wife,
son
Kayla. Yes, ma'am. Absolutely.
have both been um, really great, I think, inspiration, motivation points for you, right? So you were on this track on your own, and then you meet them, and now all of a sudden you've got other people, other things that you want to provide for, that you want to do. Tell a little bit about that part for
So,
you.
yeah, absolutely. In my early 20s, I had started working as a bouncer at the bar, selling retail tobacco during the day, selling drugs on the side, just kind of living my young degenerate life. And one of my clients, friend of a friend, decides that she's like, "Hey, we should go and hang out and go to this party together." And I'm like, "Nah, I'm busy. I got work to do, blah blah blah." She's like, "Well, no, don't be a pussy. Come hang out with me." And I'm like, all right, a little challenge from this lady. I'm into it. So we go to this party, we hang out, we end up spending the entire night together, and that was January 1st of 2010. So her and I literally just celebrated 16 years together as a couple because we have been together every day since that party. And
Wow.
where there's a whole long story of things that we can go down that at some point, but we started dating, moved in together, I think 3 months after we started dating. And then our son was born in 2016. So we had a good range of dating and having fun and traveling and doing all that as a young couple. And then our son was born 6 months after we got married. He was born in January of 16. And we had made that decision together since then that we will fight for our relationship tooth and nail to set the example of what it means to have strong parents because she comes from a family of divorcees, I come from a family of divorcees and death. Like we've seen some pretty nasty stuff of what it looks like to grow up in that situation, and so we've just kind of made the decision that relationships aren't easy. If anyone's in one right now, it's a daily choice to be in that relationship, and that's something that her and I have really worked through over the years because at one point I made a lot of selfish decisions building a business and chasing after my dreams and being like, "Hey, I'm doing this for us," but big picture I was living in this like future fantasy world, like of things that I'm building, but they're in the present dealing with the fact that I'm traveling and I'm not there. And that even when I am there, I'm staring at my phone and doing all the things. And so, yes, they are a very important part of my journey because ultimately I've decided what I want to be out of life is a good husband, father, example that I never had when I was a kid. And so that is a commitment. And sometimes it requires making certain decisions and understanding that that's the life that I've chosen for my version of success. And that's again where I think everybody's is a little bit different. But for me, I want to be there. I want to raise my son. I want him to have those memories because at some point he's going to want to travel and be on his own. And we only have so long. So any of you who have kids that are at that point, like, it happens in the blink of an eye. And I want to make advantage of what time we had.
Yeah, tell a little bit about that. So the the part about you, obviously aren't selling drugs anymore,
No, no,
aren't doing
no.
any of
That
that.
that we're
You
past
build a
that
business.
statute of
So
limitations.
catch
I don't
us
do that
up from,
anymore.
like,
That stuff's legal
where
these
where
days. We
that
ain't gotta worry about that.
ended, and then what happened, and then what you were building. So let's catch up on that
Yeah,
part. Like,
absolutely.
what was the shift and then I want to get to, um yeah, where you're building, 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 and living in this future fantasy, and then that realization of you weren't being who
Yeah,
you wanted to be
I've done
ultimately.
a
Yeah.
terrible
So
job of jumping all over in this timeline. So
I
you're
love
gonna
it.
have to
No,
like clean this up at some
our
point. But
listeners are down for it. It's good. It's good. It's
and
good.
it's
If anybody ever has a longer conversation with me, I don't know if it's neurodivergence or just me or whatever, but like jumping around is just part of how it goes. And I'm there for it. Yeah.
beautiful. And the nice thing is all of it does tie together because as I was saying, I was young. I worked this third shift job, hated my life, ended up having a family friend that introduced me to a guy who owned these clubs. So I started bouncing at night. And then I'm like, hey, man, I need to make more than, a couple $100 a week. And he says, oh, I own these cigar shops if you want to work there a couple hours. So I got into retail sales. And this is, for Call the Damn Leads being the business, this is really where I started cutting my teeth in actual sales. Because let's be honest, drug dealing is just order taking and not getting caught. Like it's not rocket science to be successful in that business. And so when I got into retail though, I really started understanding supply, demand, the nuance of why people buy certain products and how to reorder. And I, worked in this business for, I don't know, 6 months to a year. And the guy who owned it says, hey, I want you to manage it. I want you to run this thing. And so I got the opportunity to step into running a business that was doing about a $500,000 a year. And all of the clientele are small business owners and sales professionals and like working men. So I'm sitting in the lobby smoking cigars at 20 years old with these guys that are, some of them living paycheck to paycheck and others that are making more money than they know what to do with. And I'm just getting to listen and absorb all of this wisdom. And so I started realizing that my path in life was somewhere entrepreneurially related. I didn't really know what it was for a long time, but sales is ultimately where I've kind of landed. And so I worked the cigar shops for many years, had a lot of success, and then life be lifing. And 2 weeks before Christmas, I got a knock on my door, and the guy says, "Hey man, listen, I appreciate you. You're awesome. You've done great for me, but you're fired."
Oh,
Like, uh, okay. And so I leave there. It's Christmas time. If you've ever tried to find a job around December, it's the worst. Nobody's hiring because they literally have no jobs available. And so I spent 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks wallowing in my pity and being like, what am I going to do with my life? And before I got a call from somebody that says, hey, I own this furniture store. If you want to come by, I got an opportunity for you. So show up, commission only sales. Let's get after it. That led me to selling for insurance. Spent 5.5 years selling insurance and got to a point where I'm making 40 grand a year, living what I would consider a pretty good life, right? I've got this beautiful wife now. I'm married. We just bought a house. We didn't have the white picket fence, but it was chain link. So it was pretty dope. Just being honest, like it
yeah.
wasn't the American dream, but it was pretty dang close. Um, and yet I was like unfulfilled. My weight was starting to creep back up. Son's just born, so I'm kind of like, yeah, I don't, 40 grand a year is not a lot of money. I definitely can't afford to have more kids. And if I want to travel and do all the stuff that we want to do as a family, like it's pretty damn expensive. And even if my wife's working, so I'm having these real conversations with myself about like, what do I want from life? And I remember I went to the owner of the insurance agency and I said, hey man, listen, I really am grateful for you. You've given me all of this opportunity. We're making money and I just need to know, what do I got to do to make six figures? Because like I'm making 40, but I want to make 100 grand a year. Because that's what everybody, like every good sales guy makes at least 100 grand. And God love him. He's like, hey man, just be patient. Give it a couple years. It'll be your name on the door. You'll be cruising. Don't worry about it. Well, I'm 25 years old with a kid and a mortgage. And I'm like, man, I don't want to wait 10 years. Like, the hell does that mean? And so I sulk
Yeah.
back to my desk and I'm like, all right, I got to figure this out. I'm a sales guy. What is it that I have to do to generate more sales for myself? And I'm like breaking this down and I'm going through, working at the cigar shop and the marketing and I'm thinking about the leads that we're buying and I'm going, all right, if I can generate my own leads, I can make more sales without having to spend a ton of money. Or if I'm like investing in marketing and the maths, then I'll be good. So I go online and I'm like, all right, the successful people are using these Facebook ads and woofu forms on websites. All right, cool. So I build myself a woofu form and I put it on a landing page and I run Facebook ads and I generate 500 leads for myself. Or maybe it was like 250 leads on $500 in spend, something like that. And I'm like, holy shit, this works. I start calling these leads. And I start making sales. And I'm like, holy shit, this works. This is crazy. And at the end of the month, I've almost doubled my production. And you think, all right, doubling your production, that's great, right? Well, it added like $1,000 in commission to my check. I doubled my production and made an extra $1,000. And I was like, I don't think this is gonna work. What am I doing? Well, I get a call from a couple other agents in the area, and they're like, "Hey, man, we're looking at the reports for everybody. You already one of the top guys, but you doubled your production. What are you doing, and is it legal? Because we need to know." I'm like, "Of course it's legal. You guys know me. I don't play that game. But I learned how to do these ads, and I'm getting these leads, and I'll, teach you guys how to do it." And they're like, "No, no, no, no. How about I just pay you to set it up for me?" Yeah. They're like, "How much?" 2,500 bucks. They're like, "Cool. Here's the money." And I'm like, "Shit, I made 10 grand in 6 hours on the weekend. I never made 10 grand in a month. I made 6 hours, 10 grand." I'm like, I'm in the wrong business. And so this is kind of where like my real journey starts. And I'm like, all right, I'm gonna start this marketing company and I'll learn all these things. And I say all that because listen, you guys, it's you always think you're ready to go out and start your own business, but you don't know all the things that go along with running a business. It is incredibly difficult. And I encourage you, while you have the opportunities that you have right now, to maximize them in every way, because you never know what the future could be. You never know what your next success might look like. And if you have the opportunity to maximize right now, you'd be a fool not to be doing so. If you're collecting a check and you still got time to personally develop, listen to podcasts like this, or read books, or take programs, like, by God, please take advantage of it. Because when you're in the mix of running your own business, finding the time to develop the skill sets you need at that time, infinitely harder. So once again, let me
Yep.
step off my soapbox for a second, because like I can't help myself but get passionate, because I've lived it. I know what this looks like.
Imagine what your life would be like if your career aligned with who you are, what you do best, and actually fueled the life you want. At Next Success, we support all ages and stages through career transitions, from students exploring majors or careers to job seekers actively searching or reimagining their next move to professionals committed to self-awareness and leadership growth. Stay connected and explore what's possible at nextsuccesscareers.com and follow Next Success Method on LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook. Absolutely. It's hard and yeah, even in my own case, right? So all right, I had all this success as a scientist and then success as a recruiter and then now I have my own company and you're right, it's different skills and different things I didn't even know. And so much of trying to build a business is really first trying to build yourself
Mm.
and that whole professional development, all of those things, because I can't just think my way through it or, be smarter than everyone. I've had to be on a huge personal development journey. And as I make my own foundation stronger, then some of the things of the business can become stronger as well. Personal development, I know, has been a huge journey that you've been on. You mentioned in one of your books how you kind of shifted the music you were listening to and how you were spending your time. I would love to hear a little bit more about that, help the listeners understand
Yeah,
that part too.
it's interesting how the inputs that we take in make such a difference in the outputs that we put out. And what I mean by that is, in this example, I mean, I grew up listening to drug dealing, gang banging, the worst of the worst kind of music that exists out there, right? And that's the life that I was living. I was that rebellious, fight the system, push back against regular, life type of person. And I've realized that listening to that kind of stuff doesn't actually genuinely give you real success. Because like listening to someone else talk about murdering people and making millions of dollars by selling drugs and doing whatever, like, that's not the life that you want to live. It's not really actually glamorous. If you ever watch the movies, those guys all die. They usually get shot or some horrendous, like, it looks glamorous, but I promise you, it's not. And so I started shifting, and instead of listening to music when I would go and walk or ride my bike and work out, I would listen to Jim Rohn, Ed Milet, Motiversity, where they would just take all those clips of the different, like motivating podcast clips and like speeches, and Matthew McConaughey, and there's another guy that I really, really like out there. I'll remember his name.
Tony Robbins,
Yeah,
Dean
Tony, I mean, Dean
Graziosi,
Gallagher, yeah,
Russell
you could go to, there's
Brunson,
so many.
yeah.
But like, and so I just started listening to that, and what I was doing was taking away the key pieces that I needed in my formula for building success. Because again, I had really no idea what I was looking at. I'm just seeing this big wide ocean of opportunity and going, okay, well, there might be 46,000 islands out there. Which one am I even shooting at, and why? And really starting to go down that process. And as I'm listening to these guys, I start shifting the things that I'm recognizing in life. So instead of looking at all the negative side of stuff, I start seeing the more positive aspects and the opportunity, and I start asking more questions of people and start researching more into, well, how does that work, and why does that work that way, and what does the next steps look like, and what would happen if someone wanted to do that, and I really start going through that process of real development. And funny, my paycheck started going up. I started making more sales, and when I was on the phone and talking to people, I was relaying some of the stuff that I had learned via listening to this material over and over and over again. And funny enough, sales is as much being a therapist as it is being a salesperson. Like, you genuinely, to be successful in sales, have to understand people. You have to ask great questions. You have to have empathy. You have to listen. You have to care. And when you're looking for the positives and people are telling you all the negative stuff, because people love to talk about all the negative stuff in their life, like we love to complain, but you can hear the little positive stuff. And even in the complaints, you can look for ways to reframe that in a perspective that says, well, maybe it's not all bad, because even though this is happening now, it's leading us to solving this problem, which is actually going to be a huge benefit for you, because going forward, you don't have the stress, you don't have to worry about it, and you get to know that the safety and peace of mind exists for you. So, like, I know it sucks right now, but maybe this is a blessing in disguise. And the ability to confidently say that to somebody and help them see it, that to me is, I think, what some of the best closers do. And it just comes back to going through it and living it and being open to the idea that changing the things that you take in will change the things that you put out. And if you ain't getting the life that you want right now, you probably got to stop doing the things that you keep doing over and over, because they're not getting you any different results. I'm pretty sure there's a definition of insanity, is doing the same thing over
Yeah,
and over and over expecting a different result.
absolutely. And somewhere along the way, you kind of hinted on this a few different times, but you shifted from not just what you were going to get, but what you were going to give, that then allowed you to be even more successful. You had another quote: "Success comes from the success you bring to those around you." I mean, you got some great quotes, Drewbie.
Listen, I
Just
will be the first to tell you that they're all my own version of what someone else way, way smarter than me said. And me just being like, how can I say this that sounds smart, even without like plagiarizing them? So listen, if you guys hear something out there in this world and you say you said it first, take credit. I'm just a man who's saying things that I've heard along the way and trying to say them in my own way, because that's what I've learned, right? Everybody here's something different. Perspective matters. You can be told the same thing 100 times from the people you love. You hear it from a total stranger, and suddenly it's the most genius thing you've ever heard in the world. Um, but when it goes back to helping others, when I started trying to figure out marketing, right? I was saying, hey, these guys are online. They're building these pages and doing this stuff with ads. I went into a Facebook group, and hey, how do I do this? I'm trying to figure this out, and I'm doing my research. And for those of you that are old school, it's like going into a forum and asking in a forum. and being like, hey, I'm trying to fix this, and waiting days or weeks for someone like really obscure to respond to your comment in there. And funny enough, the developer of the program that I was using to build these landing pages, he saw my post and he reached out and he's like, hey man, I don't normally do this, but I see you've been really active in the community and you're asking good questions. So I'm going to give you some insight. And if you're open to it, I'll be a direct resource for you. What I'd ask in return is that when you learn something, will you create a quick training on it for the community so that they can learn it too? Because you are asking a lot of good questions and other people are going to start asking these questions soon. And we don't have a database of training for it. So I'll train you if you'll train them. And I went, yeah, but if I teach them, they'll know the secrets. And wouldn't that screw up my opportunity? And he's like, I don't think you're understanding this, man. Let me help you. Because like everything you're asking, you could go and learn on YouTube or on the internet. But how long is it going to take you? Versus I'll give it to you directly within 24 hours of you asking the question. But in return, you've got to take that knowledge to these other people. And I was just like, well, I don't have a choice. So yeah, I'm in. Like, I mean,
Yeah.
what am I gonna do? I don't want to figure this shit out on my own. Like, teach me and I'll figure it out. And so I started creating these little training videos for this landing page platform. And I had no idea what I was doing. I'm like sitting at a kitchen table late at night, with a headset just like this, like, okay, here's how you embed a calendar to this landing page so that when someone goes through your funnel, they can schedule to your calendar for a call and you skip the whole I'll call you to schedule an appointment thing. And I started
Right.
creating these videos and people start watching them and they're like starting to share them with other people in the group. Now it's like, oh hey, Drewbie already did a video on this, check it out. And so I've got these videos and all of a sudden one day I'm working and Facebook Messenger lights up. And this was way early on before like Facebook Messenger calling was a real popular thing. It was like really obscure to get a Facebook Messenger call. And I'm like, who the hell is Facebook Messenger calling me? I've never done that. And I like look at it and it was the owner of the software whose developer that I had been chatting with, who said, listen, you've been creating all of these trainings in my community and helping these hundreds of users that I have. I haven't been able to find someone to offer tech support, and you're basically doing the job already. How about you keep doing what you're doing? I'll have a couple other little things I need help with, and I'll give you $2,000 a month. And I know you got a marketing company and you can keep doing that, but like, just please don't steal from any of my clients. Like, that's the only thing that I ask of you, but I'll give you $2,000 a month to keep helping them with this. And I was just like, say what? Yeah, hell yeah, man. Like, of course. And so I signed up, I joined the company. They had me go through a bunch of old emails and I cleaned out 3 months of backlog support tickets and emails and questions that people had been asking in like 2 weeks. So I just like, all right, cool. Opportunity. I'm going to jump in, take advantage of it. They called me back a couple weeks later and they're like, you're doing a great job, man. Keep it up. I'm like, thanks. I actually just got off a call with a guy who is really enjoying the program and he knows that you have this other coaching thing that you offer. And he said that he wants to do the $5,000 lifetime offer. How do I get him connected with whoever would help him with that? And he's like, wait, you got a guy that wants to give you $5,000? I'm like, yes. What do I need to do? This is a new thing for me. How do I take money from these people? Like, what does this look like? And he's like, call Christine, who was the lady that was his assistant. So I call her. She said, give me 10 minutes. And she created an affiliate link in Infusionsoft. And she's like, send him this link. I'm like, okay. So I call the guy. I'm like, hey, I'm about to send you this link. Fill it out. Make your payment. And then we're going to get you set up into the program. And he's like, okay, cool. And he $5,000. Boom, boom, boom. Like an hour or two later, I got a call from the boss man again. He's like, dude, no one in the company's history has ever made a $5,000 sale that fast. And I was like, yeah, I don't know. Asking for help. I just told him what it looked like. It's like, do that. Keep doing that. And then within 2 weeks, he had called me back. He's like, hey, fly down here, spend a day. you're in the wrong business, man. Like, let me change your life and come help me change lives. And it was that moment that everything really made the big shift for me in terms of understanding the giver's gain mentality, because I didn't want to do it. But he's like, you're an idiot. Just go help these people. And in doing so, it led to an absolutely life-changing opportunity for me. Crazy.
And so is that what you're doing now, or you left that and have your own thing?
So that was what I did. So I joined their consulting company for 5 years. I was employee number 3 after they had cleaned house. I came in as tech support, essentially bottom of the barrel. Sold a lot within my first couple of months. Ended up being promoted to VP of sales within 6 months of joining the company. Went on to do over $1 million in sales my first year, multiple millions every year after that, up until the end of 2023. They started making some changes internally. Some things were shifting, and me and the boss kind of had to come to a decision of a mutual separation of that at that point, where we were both kind of just on different paths of what we wanted to build. And so I left there, created Call the Damn Leads, wrote the book, started the podcast, went all in on it, and we officially became a company, like a full-blown company, in January of 2024. And we've been changing lives ever since. We've had several thousand customers on the store and come through our coaching programs. We have over 150 podcast episodes. Got a couple more books on the way. It's been a fun journey.
Every single thing here, it seems like there's this an opportunity comes, you just seize it, even though you don't necessarily know what the heck you're doing. You're just willing to do it. You go all in. You work really hard, and one thing leads to another, and you then enjoy and just keep like leveling up with what it's even possible for you.
You said it. Opportunity shows up. I just work hard and pray everything else is going to work out the way it's supposed to. I think the biggest issue is most people forget the work hard part.
Mm. Or they do the work hard part and they forget the people that they love part.
There is that too. This is the balance of life, right? It's never perfect. I met a lot of people that worked really hard and made a lot of money, but family life wasn't good, and I don't want that. And I've also met a lot of people that had a great family life that struggled financially. Don't want that either. So we're finding our way.
That's right. That's right. I like to say it's not balance that we're going for, because balance kind of assumes like there's two different me's that I could just balance my time. And it's not. There's just one. So it's more like integration. So like, how do you want your life to look like? And then how can your career fuel that life? And like, what are you willing to, you know, to give on either side to try to make it keep working towards that.
My mentor always said a balance scale reads 0. And do you want to be a 0? No.
Nice.
Like, well,
Nice.
all
Nice.
right.
Nice.
There you go.
Nice.
It was simple and sweet.
What advice do you have for somebody who's starting to think, yeah, this isn't it. I can't keep doing this. I don't want to keep making 40 grand, or I can't keep working third shift, or I can't keep eating the multiple breakfast sandwiches. Something's got to go. This isn't it. What's your go-to game plan?
Number one, it's going to have to be multiple pieces to this. Like, number one, you have to become aware of the problem. Like, problem awareness is key. And a lot of people will ignore problems, they'll deny problems, but they know it exists. So if you are aware of the problem, then you have to understand what the solution or solutions could potentially be. Because there's more than one way to skin a cat, as they say. Right? There's more than one way to lose weight. There's more than one way to build a business. There's more than one way to create success in your life, right? I know people that are employees that make silly money and live great lives, and they don't have the responsibility of owning a business. Being a business owner does not have to be your version of success. That said, if you know there is a problem that exists and you've developed whatever the solution needs to be, you have to take action and you have to trust the process. Too many people give up before they get to the destination because they don't see it happening fast enough. Again, if you want to go back to what I was talking about from, a health standpoint in my own life, 315, 215, 285, 185, 230, 205, 220. I have bounced everywhere in between and I'm still not happy because at the end of the day, the number on the scale doesn't matter. But I know the solution is changing the way that I see myself and that I look at my version of what success in my health journey looks like. And that is, can I move? Can I pick things up that are heavy? And can I do it without dying and falling over? That puts me on a pretty good path. When I put on clothes, do I feel good or do I feel like a Pillsbury Doughboy? That's a pretty good indicator of where I'm at from a health perspective. But here's the thing. Maybe the fact is I just need to buy some different clothes because I'm living in an outdated shell that doesn't fit my current lifestyle. And that's something I think people forget in the terms of they may be living in an old version of themselves that it's just simply shedding that old skin and seeing the new person that they're capable of becoming and then trusting the process that if they just keep doing those things that get them there, they will keep getting everything that they've been asking for.
That's beautiful. How do you define authentic success for you in this moment?
So, authentic success for me is when I lay down at night and go to bed and I ask myself, did I crush the day or did it crush me? If I can honestly, in my heart of hearts, say, yes, I crushed it today, then I had a successful day. And if by God, I didn't wake up the next day and I just blinked and all of a sudden I'm in heaven looking down, I'll feel like I was successful in my life. But if I go to bed and I know that I keep letting the day crush me and I'm not doing the things that I know I'm supposed to be doing and I'm not spending the time in the areas that I know are important to me, then that's not successful. And that's is very yes or no. Did you do it? Yes or no. And that's the beautiful part of keeping it simple and how you know you're successful or not because it's a yes or no question.
Beautiful, beautiful. How do people find you? How do they find your books? How can they work with you? All of the things.
Best thing you can do to find me, and this is a huge favor to both me and Carolyn, is share this episode on social media and tag at Call the Damn Leads. Why? A, because you spent some time, energy, and effort listening to me ramble on these crazy tangents today, and you got some value out of it, at least enough to say that you learned something. So if you'll share this with someone else, remember we talked about givers gain, send it to someone that you know who needs to hear it, put it out on social media, tag at Call the Damn Leads. That's going to let me know that you listen to it. And being a sales guy, I'm going to follow up with you because I really care about the people that spend a little bit of time and energy to promote what I'm doing in my crazy life that I'm living. And then if you want to go check out the books, they're all on callthedamnleads.com. I hand sign every single one of them that we send out from the store. So they're all personalized. And it really just, it means a lot to me to have the opportunity to know my story, my message, some of the wonky stuff that I've figured out over the years is out there making a difference in someone's life. And so if this episode has helped you in any way, make sure you leave a review, send us a message, let us know, because it will prove once again for us that we're spending our time, energy, and effort in the places that make the most impact, even if not financially. In the big picture, we're here to help people, and it would mean the world to us to know that it helped you today.
Love it. Love it. Thank you, Drewbie, for sharing part of your story, for your inspiration, for all this wisdom, all this nuggets. I wish you absolutely continuing to crush the day, continuing to, celebrate your success. And I look forward to kind of catching up as we both grow from here.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Appreciate it. Drewbie, thank you for bringing truth and encouragement in the same breath. I love the reminder that the work hard part matters and that the people you love part matters too. If this episode helped you, Drewbie gave a very clear ask. Share it with someone who needs it. Post it. Tag him. And if you're listening and you know something has to shift, let today be that decision point. You are allowed to build a life that fits who you're becoming. You are allowed to define success for yourself, and you are allowed to take the next step towards your next success, even if you don't feel ready yet. Thanks for listening to Your Next Success with Dr. Carolyn Sengel. Remember, authentic success is yours to define and includes aligning your career to support the life you want.